Welcome to Created Healthy. I'm Dawn Combs. It's a common idea that God gave us everything we need in nature, but do we believe it enough to walk that out in truth? Often the very same people who say this go looking for answers on how to use food and medicine from man-made sources. Everything man creates comes with a user's manual. Why would God be any different? I challenge you to join me in seeking revelation about our body, mind, soul, and spirit health by digging into His written word and in practicing pure science in the visible world of His creation.
I believe that when we are walking as a Christian, we are listening to the Holy Spirit and His promptings, we pretty much already know what the consequences are going to be to our actions if we choose to be willful. In 2 Samuel 16 through 18, we have sort of, I think, the fruition of, or maybe the support to my theory, but we do have the fruition of what Nathan said to David in 2 Samuel 12. And it wasn't, I think when we look at this, maybe it's not a prophecy that he gave him. It could have been a promise, but I think I'm looking at it now more as a since you have slept with Bathsheba and taken her away and killed her husband, here are the things that are going to happen. And when we read something like this, where this is Nathan is a prophet, and I'll go over it again, it says that since you have done what you've done, God says, the sword shall never leave your house. I will raise up evil against you from within your own house. I will take your wives from before you and give them to companions. And what you did in secret will be done to you in broad daylight before all Israel. Today, as I'm reading 2 Samuel 16 through 18, I feel like what he was saying was God has the ability to look ahead and see where what we have done is going to touch the web of so many other people's lives. And this is why it's not great for us to step off of his path, because he can see and we can't. But I think now we kind of know that there are going to be consequences when we're willful. In this day and age, we weren't people that were able to have the Spirit indwelt in us. So we had the benefit of prophets. And Nathan is speaking as if sort of that, the way we like to see it, the devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. And Nathan was speaking as sort of the angel on the shoulder of like, well, if you'd make that choice, here's all the bad stuff that's going to happen to you. And in this case, he was saying, since you started this new path in motion, this path that you chose to go on, here's what's going to happen. So here we are, and in 2 Samuel 16 and 18 through 18, we've already seen that Absalom, David's son, has risen up against David. And so that's I will raise up somebody from within your house. I will raise up evil. Absalom declares himself king, and David has to flee. And the sword in his house is going to remain. There's always going to be this sort of problem. And it's so tempting for us to read these stories as flat people and not really look at the dimension of who they are and what these interactions are. But if you think about a father who is demonstrating what it looks like to have a lot of wives and concubines, and is maybe not, I think David's a little weak. He doesn't just come out and solve problems right away. He lets things go. There is division sown in the home as the sons are watching this go on. So David is reaping what he sowed. And here we have David has run away, and Absalom has come home to Jerusalem. And there are, unfortunately, hangers-on, people who claim to be David's friend, that are falling in line with his son and suddenly seeing Absalom as the better choice. And, they never liked David anyway. But one figure here is Ahithophel. Now, as I started to dig into this, Ahithophel was a friend, was right there with David all along. But as Absalom comes into his father's house, Ahithophel tells Absalom that it's a really good godly thing that he should go into his father's concubines. And this fulfills the ramification that Nathan had laid out, that what David did in secret, seeking somebody else's wife, will be done to him before all of Israel. Absalom is counseled by Ahithophel to bring the concubines out onto the roof of the palace and to consummate a new relationship with them. And this is the same thing that David did in secret with Bathsheba. Well, the plot thickens as I started to look into Ahithophel. There are many who believe that there is evidence, strong evidence, to suggest that Ahithophel is actually Bathsheba's grandfather. So this is where I'm saying we can't look at these people as flat characters that have been dropped into a poorly written novel. They have backstories. They have their own motivations. There are things that get set into motion when your hero, David, makes a really bad decision. And here we have potentially Ahithophel being Bathsheba's grandfather and watching his granddaughter be cornered by the king into a relationship. She didn't go to him; he went to her, and killed her husband and took her and married her, and so sort of has his own axe to grind here. Now, some scholars suggest that Ahithophel wanted to he didn't think much of Absalom, so he wanted to get Absalom to commit a mortal sin by sleeping with his father's concubines, and then he would be out of the way, and Ahithophel would ascend to the throne. In 17, Ahithophel does ask Absalom for 12,000 men to pursue David, and he wants to terrify David's followers, kill David, and he's suggesting that this will unify Israel. And perhaps he's doing this because he does think that Absalom will be out of the way. And not only will Ahithophel be in line because he has served in the palace, but also he would take ascension due to this military prowess that he had demonstrated. But David did still have a friend in the palace, and Hushai speaks out against this as not a good thing. And so Ahithophel's story ends. He winds up going home and committing suicide because things don't work out for him in the end. Whether it's because his aim for the throne didn't work out, or whether he just comes to a place that there's just too much evil going on. He's made too many bad decisions, and he doesn't decide to live anymore. But Ahithophel has a sad ending here, and you can't help but look at him as another bit of blood on David's hands, because while Ahithophel had the ability to make his own decisions, and this was his own doing, it was all set in motion with David's poor decision. And this is, I think, perhaps a really important object lesson for us to see, that there is an arc from the moment David makes this mistake and follows his own lust and does anything that he can. First he finds out that the woman that he had secretly cornered and slept with is now pregnant, and now he can't just ignore it. And then he has to kill the husband, and then he has to send people into battle, and there's so much blood on his hands because of this mistake. And so many people's lives are um, are ended and affected. His son rises up against him as a result. It's really not just a crime that happened with him against Bathsheba, or between the two. If she was complicit in any way, it's not just their sin. It's not just his sin. He creates the environment where many, many other people are affected because of his bad decision. And they are tempted sorely to take a path that they weren't designed to be on as well. And so we must be careful with our decisions, that, as much as it seems like going our own way would be, in the moment, would be something that would be good for us, we do have to think about the fact that our lives are intertwined with many other people. We may have children that see us commit the sin. Our bad example may be set. We may tempt other people who were struggling in their faith and watched us make that decision and create damage. And we may harm other people's walks. This sort of, the way that the dominoes fall here, we can see that there are other people that were impacted, and it created a centuries long problem. Walking our own path this is why it's so sinful, to give in to those base needs that we think we have in a moment, and why it's so important to stay on God's path and follow his rules and covenants. It's sad here. There's so much going on in these 3 chapters that I think I'm going to address. One of the things, which is, of course, the fascination of the forest of Ephraim. I definitely want to talk about that, but I think I'm going to talk about that on Sunday. A lot of cool nature, power in nature being touched on here, and it's irresistible for me not to go deeper into that. I pray that God is blessing you today, and that you are being careful where you walk, and also being careful about the people that you surround yourself with, and that they are being careful on their walk so as to not influence yours in a negative way. And I hope to see you back here again on another.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with a friend. And I'm always interested in hearing what God is laying on your heart. So drop me a rating or review, or join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Dawn Combs Really.